There are over 7,000 languages spoken around the world, and even with the amazing technology we have at our disposal, we still haven't mastered a perfect translation app. Now, don't worry, this is still a crime case, but this case could have been all avoided if it wasn't down to poor translation.
Gangnam Style.
As mentioned in previous videos, Korean cases are usually hard to do as they very rarely release the names of victims and offenders. Today is another one of those cases, but today's story is more interesting than knowing the background of the offender or victim. It may give you a better insight of certain Korean culture as well. Throughout history, and almost on a yearly basis, there has been an unsettled dispute between China and South Korea. Most recently, the Chinese have claimed certain Korean history as their own, including the very popular food kimchi and the traditional Korean attire, the hanbok. Koreans understand the power that China have, but have a strong dislike for historians and political figures of China. However, even with this tension, it hasn't stopped the Korean public from welcoming Chinese people into Korea. Most Koreans understand the difference between the people of China and the politics of China. There is also a long history of Chinese-Korean gangs in South Korea, which I will get to one of these days as a case. This case takes us to the small city in South Korea called Jeonju. It was a Monday, 10 p.m. the 6th of September, 2021. A bunch of co-workers, both Korean and Chinese, were out drinking on what Koreans call a hueshik, roughly translated to after-work drinks or after-work dinner. In the group of drinkers was a 35-year-old male Chinese worker, a female co-worker who was also Chinese, and her Korean husband. The male Chinese worker's Korean was very poor and relied on a Chinese to Korean translation app to communicate with his co-worker's husband. The night seemed to have gone well up until that point, but there was a little tension in the air as the male Chinese worker was rumored to have a crush on his female Chinese co-worker, and with the husband there, it would have been a little awkward. The co-workers had a fair bit to drink, but due to the COVID-19 lockdown, it was time to leave the restaurant and head for home. The male Chinese co-worker wanted to show his intention to hang out again. He types into his translation app in Chinese, which is roughly translated in English as, "Let's hang out again with sister some other time." The Chinese male shows the Korean husband of his Chinese co-worker the translation. The husband looks at the Chinese male's phone and was immediately offended. Aggravated and already with a belly filled with alcohol, the Korean male then punched the Chinese male several times in the face. The situation is broken up between the two, and the Korean male and his wife head home. The Chinese male felt humiliated that he was struck several times in front of his co-workers. He then goes to a nearby store and purchases a knife. Around 2 o'clock, he makes his way to the Korean couple's house located in Cheonguk province. The Chinese male confronts the Korean male near his house in a parking lot. He stabs the Korean male roughly 10 times in the neck and the abdomen. But some are wondering why the Korean male got so upset over this translation. To understand the story more, you need to understand a little bit about both languages. You see, in both Korean and Chinese, the word sister doesn't always mean sibling. Koreans and Chinese use honorific terms to older people, even if it's just by a year. So males who have an older female friend will call them 누나, and females who have an older female friend will call them 언니. Males who have older male friends will call them 형, and females who have older male friends will call them 오빠. This is the same with the Chinese language. In this case, the Chinese worker wanted to translate his mother tongue word for older sister, which is 姐姐, to Korean, which should have been 누나. However, the translation came out as 아가씨 instead of 누나. The Korean male saw the term 아가씨 as an insult rather than a mistake. Now, the Korean word 아가씨 has 3 definitions. One definition refers to a young unmarried or single woman. The second definition refers to a husband's younger sister, and this is regardless of whether they are married or not. However, it is also used to describe a woman who works in clubs, bars, and room salons. Now, clubs, bars, and room salons are suspected to be a part of the underground sex industry in Korea, something that is illegal in Korea and is heavily looked down on. Now, it is believed the way the Korean man interpreted the translation is that the Chinese male wanted to go with the Korean male to a sex bar and pick up women. Already upset about the rumor of the Chinese male liking his wife, this sent the Korean male over the edge, causing him to lash out. After the stabbing took place, the Korean man tried to escape, but collapsed. The Korean male is rushed to the hospital and dies from his injuries. The Chinese male turns himself in to police and was sentenced to 20 years. At first, many people would feel sorry for the Chinese worker. He was simply just trying to have fun with some co-workers and wanted to hang out again. The Korean male had no right to start punching a person just for something that was translated in an app and incorrectly. And let's just be clear, most Koreans would understand the mistake in the translation. Not all Koreans would react the way that the husband did. However, it was the Chinese male's revenge where people went from feeling sorry to being utter disgusted. His revenge showed that he really didn't have good intentions in the first place. So, the next time that you use your Korean when you're practicing, maybe avoid using the word 아가씨, or at least make sure when you use a translation app that the word 아가씨 doesn't come up.